Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the pharmaceutical world to look at the incredible gauntlet a machine has to run before it can ever make a single pill. This is all about how we guarantee the safety and quality of the medicine we all count on.
I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. It's a massive challenge. Millions of capsules, and every single one needs the exact right dose every time. Well, the answer isn't just checking the pills at the end of the line. It's about proving with hard evidence that the machine itself is flawless from the get-go. And that whole rigorous process, it's called qualification.
And this qualification process is basically a four-part gauntlet. You can think of it as a series of super demanding trials, each one designed to test every possible aspect of the machine, from the moment it's just a drawing on a computer all the way to how it performs under the pressure of a real production run.
Okay, so let's dive into it. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with why this is such a huge challenge in the first place. Then we'll walk through each of those four phases: the blueprint, the setup, the dry run, and finally, the real deal.
So first things first, you've got to appreciate the sheer scale of this problem. We're not talking about making a few dozen perfect capsules. We're talking millions. The real challenge here is keeping things absolutely consistent, because even the tiniest little error in a dose, if you repeat that millions of times, could have really serious consequences for a patient's health. So where do you possibly begin? Well, believe it or not, the very first trial, the design qualification, happens before the machine is even built. It's a super detailed, deep dive into the design specs to prove, just on paper, that this is absolutely the right tool for the very specific job it's being designed for. And they do this using a document called a User Requirement Specification, or URS. Just think of it as the ultimate rulebook. It defines everything, from how fast the machine needs to be, like say 40,000 capsules an hour, to the exact kind of steel that has to be used for any part that might touch the drug. And why that specific steel? Well, stainless steel 316L is incredibly resistant to corrosion, which means you prevent any weird contamination of the medicine. Every little detail is locked down right here. Okay, so once the design gets the green light and the machine is actually built and delivered, we move on to the second trial, installation qualification. The machine has finally arrived, and now it goes through this incredibly thorough physical exam to make sure everything is installed exactly the way it's supposed to be. And when I say thorough, I mean they check everything. They're matching the model and serial numbers on the machine to the original purchase order. They're busting out the blueprints of the factory floor to make sure it's sitting in the exact right spot. They check that every manual is there, that every single major part is present and accounted for. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is left to chance. And then comes the really critical stuff, the connections. They make sure all the essential utilities, electricity, compressed air, are hooked up right and delivering the proper voltage and pressure. And, maybe most importantly, they test every single safety feature. That big red emergency stop button, they're going to slam it to make sure it works instantly. The safety doors, they'll open them mid-operation to confirm the machine stops on a dime. Every what-if is tested to protect the people and the product. Now for the third trial. It's time to actually turn this thing on. This is the operational qualification, and you can think of it like a test drive. We're running the machine, but it's totally empty. No drugs, no capsules, nothing. The whole point here is to test every single button, every function, every alarm, every control system. And what's really interesting here is how they push the machine to its absolute limits. It's not enough to just see if it turns on. They test its full operational range. They'll have it crawling at its slowest possible speed to make sure it's stable, and then they'll crank it all the way up to its maximum speed to prove it can handle the crazy pace of full-scale production without shaking itself to pieces. But, things don't always go perfectly, right? So a huge part of this phase is finding out what happens when things go wrong. For instance, what if the bin that feeds the empty capsules just runs out? Well, they don't wait to find out by accident. They intentionally create these problems to prove the machine's brain works just like it's supposed to. So here's the bottom line. The machine has to do two things perfectly. First, it's got to set off the right alarm, a flashing light, a loud noise, to get the operator's attention. And second, it has to automatically and safely stop itself. This is huge because it prevents the machine from just churning out thousands of defective, empty capsules. It's got to be smart enough to protect the batch from its own mistakes. And all of that, all those tests, brings us to the final and, frankly, the most critical trial of them all, the performance qualification. This is the main event.
Everything before this was just a warm-up. Now, we run the machine with the actual drug under the exact conditions of a real production day. Now, to pass this final test, doing it right just once is not going to cut it. I mean, anyone can get lucky, right? It has to prove that it's consistent, that its performance is reproducible time and time again. And to do that, it has to produce at least 3 perfect batches in a row, with every single one meeting every quality standard, no exceptions. And during those runs, they are constantly pulling samples and just hammering them with tests for what they call critical quality attributes. Is the weight of every capsule almost identical? Is the appearance flawless? Does each capsule have the precise amount of active ingredient, right down to the microgram? The capsules have to pass every single one of these tests to prove the machine is really doing its job perfectly. And only then, after passing every single test across all 4 phases, from the blueprint to the 3 perfect production runs, and after getting that final official sign-off from the quality assurance team, only then is the machine finally considered qualified and ready to make the medicine that patients will depend on.
So, the gauntlet is complete. The machine has proven it's ready for action. But this brings up one last really important question. This whole process ensures the machine is perfect on day 1. But how do you maintain that level of perfection over years of constant use and millions of capsules? Well, that ongoing vigilance, that's the key to it all. And maybe a story for another explainer.